And I want you to just jump into my process. And I'm going to use the tool that I use every day in and out. It's Logos Bible software. And you may have your own tool, free tools like Blue Letter Bible or Bible Gateway, or you might be bought into Accordance or Bible Works or a different Bible tool. And so the principles and the methods that I unpack today in the next hour or so are transferable. You just have to do the work of application and kind of seeing how your tool works with this method. But let's just go ahead and dig in. So I am going to do a screen share. So two things. We're going to start by setting the table in terms of setting up the lab. So the first half is going to feel tedious. It's going to feel like a lot of work. You can pause this teaching. You can slow it down. You can screenshot. You can take pictures of things that I'm doing, books that I have in my library that you find that you want to be useful for you. So all that can happen, but just know the first half is going to be a little bit of a grind. The second half, we're actually going to get into the biblical text. We're going to study Colossians chapter 2, verse 15 specifically, some things that I'm studying, and I'm excited to study with you so I can kind of show you exactly what I do. But to start with, I'm going to jump in here and I am going to do a screen share. And let me share it. There you go. So you should be able to see my screen now. The very first thing that you'll notice inside of Logos Bible software is I don't use the homepage. I don't have it up. I'm going to be really honest with you. This is why I didn't have somebody from Logos a part of this. Is just I'm going to give you the raw, gritty, just true, honest truth about the software that I love and things that I don't use. The homepage I really don't use. However, there is one thing that I want you to do in the very beginning. This is called the command bar. In your command bar, I want you to type in set preferred Bible 2, and then the abbreviations for your preferred Bible translation. I typically study from ESV, so I'm going to do set preferred Bible 2 ESV. And what Logos is going to do is it's going to jump in and it's going to create a system or create a method so that my priority or my preference is always going to be based off of the ESV translation. So you see tools, you can just say set preferred Bible translation to the ESV, and now it's set. It feels like we didn't do anything really big, but this is really massive. The majority of the search functions and the tools that we're going to use, even original language, Hebrew and Greek, is going to be based off of your English translation. And so this is going to be really important. The next thing that I want us to do is to prioritize our resources. So if you're doing things in print, you're probably going to have a bookshelf, and I would recommend this, that you have the books that you go to all the time, the ones that are just your go-to favorites. It might be dictionaries, it might be lexicons, original language resources, it might be commentaries, Bibles for sure. And so we want to prioritize those resources so that when Logos does searching for us, that it searches from those places first. So it feeds us information that is important for us, that is useful for what we are going to do. And again, if you're going to implement this method in a different resource, great. If you're going to do this in print, I would still recommend that you do this method or this principle in print. So I'm going to click up in the top left-hand corner, the library button. When I click library button, when I go to the far right, you'll see the three dots that are kind of like an accordion. It's in a vertical line. I'm going to click those three dots and notice at the very bottom, it says prioritize resources. So I'm going to click prioritize resources, and notice here it says prefer these resources. At this point, you may want to go ahead and stop and pause this and screenshot or take a picture of the books and the resources that I have as my priority that I've built up over the course of many, many years. Depending on your base package or your library, it's going to look a little bit different based off the resources that you have. But let me unpack the four. I'm going to cheat a little bit and say 5 different types of resources or types of books that we're going to prioritize. Number 1 is Bible. Number 2 is encyclopedia. Number 3 is lexicon. Number 4 are commentaries. And number 5 are theological resources. So how do we do this? First, in your search bar over here, you're going to go ahead and press type colon Bible. Notice when you do type colon Bible, all of your Bibles that you have in your library show up. This includes Greek Bibles, Hebrew Bibles and your standard English Bibles. I am going to just grab the book cover. If you click the book cover and drag it over to the right hand side, you can do that to prioritize that resource. So I want you to see how that happens. I'm going to remove ESV from I prefer these resources. I'm going to grab the ESV, drag it over, and there you'll see it highlighted. So if you want to pause right now and do this with your top 3 or 4 Bible translations, go for it. And that'll be a great start. The next prioritization that I want you to do is encyclopedia. So I'm going to type in encyclopedia. I can't type encyclo. There we go. As you start to type in encyclopedia, you'll notice that your different Bible dictionaries or encyclopedias begin to show up. The one that everybody should have is the Lexham Bible Dictionary. Definitely, absolutely click and drag that over. The ones that on my list that I love: Lexham Bible Dictionary, Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels, the Anchor Yale Bible Dictionary, brilliant. The Jewish Encyclopedia is so helpful for Old Testament context. Most of these Bible dictionaries are going to start in the gold-based package. And so if you are thinking about upgrading and getting more commentaries that reflect more of what I have here, gold would probably be the closest one for you. But you'll notice here, all of those are available. Again, same thing. We're going to click, drag, and drop them over to your right-hand side. Okay, the next type is lexicons. Lexicon is just a fancy word for Greek and Hebrew dictionaries. And so notice I've got the Greek English lexicon of the New Testament. So I'm going to grab BDAG, click it, drag it over. And you might want to do 1 or 2 of these and drag them over. Now, the next one is commentary. You can just start typing in commentary and all of your commentaries will show up. There's a, I'm going to show you my commentaries when we get into the biblical passage section here and we study Colossians together. And those series that I show you that I have prioritized can be the ones that maybe you decide to prioritize, or you can kind of search and look and make some decisions. But commentaries are definitely like the ones that I would for sure recommend are like, if you are into Greek, the Zondervan Exegetical Commentary series. That's what this one is. The Word Biblical Commentary series. Tyndale has an incredible Old Testament series. That's a good one. Pillar is a brilliant New Testament series. NAC, New American Commentary series, is really, really good. Obviously, Word Biblical Commentary, all of that is helpful. So those are commentaries. Now, the last one is theology. I'm going to just type in theology. And notice as I type in theology, I've got a bunch of different resources here. So for instance, my old seminary professor, Dr. Gerald Bray, wrote an incredible book called Doctrine of God. These are systematic or biblical theological or historical theological books and resources. These are different from commentaries. And so it's very important that you prioritize some of these books because typically they get lost. Like for instance, Packer's Concise Theology is so helpful. Don't sleep on Herman Bavinck. Bavinck's Reformed Dogmatics, super helpful, incredibly useful. Even Lexham's Survey of Theology. These are really, really good theological resources that I would recommend that you grab and then you prioritize. So we've done prioritization. Next, we're going to clear this out. And we did priorities. I'm going to show you a cheat. This is like a cheat code in Logos. If you go to the information bar, notice now nothing is set. But if I were to click the Lexham Bible Dictionary, notice that there's a tag option here. You can actually tag all of the books, all of the resources in your library. Why is tagging important? Because commentaries search based off of scripture reference. So Colossians chapter 1, 1 through 3, or, Ephesians 4, 2 through 7. There is an anchor, and the anchor is that scripture reference. Other books, like systematic biblical theological books, don't have anchors as scripture references. They have topics and themes, and they're doing a little bit of different type of theological work. So a passage guide search is often going to feed you commentaries, but you're going to miss out on hundreds of incredibly important and useful books just because they're monographs. They're not commentary type books, they're theological type books. And so there's a way to get around this, and I'm going to show you this. It's a tagging system. So when I go in here and I click into the tag and then I press the hashtag button, you will notice all of my tags show up. I have gone through and I've created a tagging system based off of my library. Now, if you have a print library, you probably want to do this as well. If you, as long as you don't have a massive library, if you have like a massive library, then you want to do like a library, like a full-on, like the library tagging system that you can actually buy and do. So if you're like a scholar and you've got a massive library, you already know how to categorize your library. But for the rest of us, theologians and Bible teachers and pastors and seminary students or seminarians, whatever you want to call it, we can probably get away with tagging. So I have created a system where I have Second Temple. And again, this is a moment you want to pause, screenshot all of these tags. Second Temple, biblical theology, Christology, church fathers, my projects that I'm working on. So my PhD work, pneumatology, Trinity, systematic theology, Pauline theology. I'm tagging based off of this theme, and I can search based off of these tags later on. I'm going to warn you, this is brutal in terms of the time that it's going to take, because I had almost 11,000 books that I actually literally I'd sit and watch like football or basketball or whatever it might be. And mindlessly, I'd be like going through each book cover and literally hitting the book, going in here, picking a tag. Now I could tag this as, let's do systematic theology, and you'll see that, but I can add a second tag as well. So you can have multiple tags. This could also be ecclesiology, and I could tag it as ecclesiology, right? And then that shows up. So there you go. You've got tags that work, and you can add multiple tags. Literally what you'll do is click and go through every one of your books and read the cover, see what it's about. They'll give you sometimes, like I did Nicene, post Nicene, the church fathers, that's church history. So I've already tagged that, but you can kind of get in here and learn more about this book in order to help you determine how you want to tag it. So that is our tagging system. Now, there are certain books that you love that you go back to all the time. And so one of those books that I'm reading right now is called Sojourners and Strangers. It's by Dr. Greg Allison. So when I type in Sojourners and Strangers, I can open up that book, but it's a lot of work to type in Sojourners and Strangers or Greg Allison and try to find it. So instead, what I can do is grab the book cover when it's open and drag that book cover up top and stick that book cover over here in the toolbar. If I want to get rid of it, I just right click it, go down and delete it, right? So you can do this with your favorite books, your favorite tools in Logos. I have up here Bible Books Explorer, which is a tool I use often, and New Testament usage of the Old Testament, that you can find those underneath your tools menu. And just click it, open it, and in the same way that you would with the book cover, grab it and then drag it up top, and then you will have it. So that is a shortcut in order to get to your books. Now, one of the things that I really do love about Logos is this tool called Layouts. So what I can do with Layouts is I can actually click the Layouts button that's up here in the top right hand corner, and I can go back and I can see all of my past layouts. And I organize my layouts based off of the topic or the Bible study or the book project or the research project that I'm working on. So for instance, when I was working on Lisa's Bible study on the 7 I am statements of Jesus, I'm curious. I remember I really enjoyed what I read and what I was studying. What does it look like? I can click that layouts button, and what Logos is doing is actually going back in time, and it's actually remembering what my screen looked like at that time, and it opens it up for me with all of the books and all of the resources and the Bible passages and everything, even the format that I had set up at that time. So you can see that at the time I was reading Jonathan Edwards, and at the time I had Augustine who was up. And I was also interested in what Tim Keller had to say about the 7 I am statements. I think we quoted Keller in one of the sections. And so you'll see, I show you the power of layouts because when we get into our Colossians study, we're going to actually create a layout, and you'll see how important this is. Because the very worst thing that can happen is when you've got your books, your Bibles, your resources, everything that are out laid out on the table, and you walk away for a second, and your kids have come and destroyed the table. Like everything's gone, water, coffee has spilled all over. Like everything is ruined. Like how do you get back to where you were? With layouts instead of logos, it's almost like taking a screenshot, a capture of your workspace so you can get back to it exactly where you were without all the busy work of trying to get into all the different nuances of all of those places. And so if I hit this little X button with the windows, it will actually close everything down. Logos has a way to take notes. So I'm going to be very honest here. I typically do not use their notes system for full on note taking. I use their notes system similar to how in a print book I would print or write things into the margins or highlight or whatever. That's how I use books inside of Logo. So, for example, in that book that I told you about, Sojourners and Strangers, when I open it up, you'll already see I've got highlights here. But notice this, this little bar, the three lines that are horizontal, if I click that, it opens it up into the table of contents. At the top, I have this like sticky notes icon. If I click the sticky notes icon, you'll notice that I have all of my highlights, 285 highlights that I've created. Now, you might be like, wow, that's a lot of highlights. What is going on? You can actually view them based off of articles, so you can see the larger context of where that was. Or if you just want to see the highlight very granularly, filter it to sentence. So there's the drop down bar here, just hit sentence, and you will see at the sentence level where all of these are. If you want to see them at the paragraph level, just filter it by paragraph. If you want to filter it by the article level, filter it by article. So I'm going to hit highlights, and I'm going to hit sentence. And there you go. And notice it even gives you the page number of where that highlighter was. You see? So again, this becomes really helpful, and it's a motivation for us to spend time inside of logos, to highlight, to take notes, to do all of that, because it becomes retrievable so easy by filtering and searching and looking. And so that's what we've done over here. I'll talk about clippings a little bit later. So we have just prioritized. We've set up the lab. We've done a lot of work in terms of just setting the scene, making sure everything looks really good. Now we want to jump in and work inside of the lab. And so the example that we're going to use is Colossians chapter 2, verse 15, which is a really intriguing verse. Now, remember when I said I'm taking the veil of mystery down? I'm going to actually go through exactly how I do this for you. So I'm going to have my Word document up where I put my notes and I outline and logos, and you're going to actually see exactly how I do this. So let's go back into the screen share. Here's logos. I'm going to share. Okay. I'm going to change my screen size a little bit here. And I'm going to also open up my other document. I actually think I have to do this a little bit differently with my screen share. So let me just get everything set up so that you guys can see everything that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So new share, I want you to see this. Okay, so now you should see my Word document on the right-hand side. You'll see what we're studying, Colossians 2, verse 15, and you'll see the logos on the left-hand side over here as well. So to start with, I'm going to go to my guides tool, and I'm going to hit passage guide. When I hit passage guide, because I've done this study before, I'm going to actually go to Colossians 2:15, and I want to study this. So just click on Colossians 2:15, and Logos is going to actually go in and do all of my study. Now, why was it so important that we did those priorities earlier on? Well, because here you go. Logos automatically orders my commentary results based off of what I've designed the priorities to be. It's almost like having a team of theological research assistants that are running to your bookshelves to grab all of your books and commentaries based off of what you have prioritized earlier. That's basically what Logos has done. So for this, I want to open up this commentary by Powell. I want to open up Marcus Bart's, and I want to open up Pillar. So I want to open up 3 commentaries, and actually I think Dunn. Dunn has a really good observation about this. So I want to do a couple things. One, I don't have my Bible open, so I want to open up my Bible. And literally, I did this by in the commentary, the 215 anchor. I just clicked on it and it opened up the Bible. So here I am. And when I read this, I notice a couple things. And this is how I outline. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. Well, who is the he? What does it mean that he disarmed? Who are the rulers and authorities? What does it mean that he put them to open shame by triumphing over them? And so I kind of have created already here an outline. Now, what I might do in this text here is I might highlight like disarmed. So I'm going to bold that. Rulers and authorities, open shame, and triumphing. Okay. But I want to see what the Greek text actually has to say. This is where, if you don't know Greek, it could feel very confusing. Like, how do I even do this? Well, I'm going to show you a very simple way to do this. Go to your library. And again, if you have the gold-based package or higher with original languages, you can type in Nestle Aland, which is one of your Greek New Testaments, and just open that. I have the 27th and 28th. I primarily use the 27th version. Now, this is all Greek to you and to me, right? Now, I cheated a little bit. I didn't want this to happen, but you'll notice that my highlighting from my English Bible translates over to the Greek Bible. So I actually see that. So I could literally over here, my Greek text, highlight this, copy it, go over here, and I'm going to put it down underneath Greek text and paste it. Let's see what Word does here. There you go. It pasted it and it did the footnotes and citations. Now, here's the thing. I want to highlight the exact same words here, but you might not be as confident with your Greek, right? How do you do it? Well, I see exousia, I see archos. I mean, I know some of these words, right? Thrombonos. Now, how do we do this here? If I go over here into my Logos page and I hit those 3 little icons, I'm going to link my Bible to my Greek Bible. So link set A with link set A. And now I'm going to highlight in English disarmed. Wait, I got to unhighlight here. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to highlight in English disarmed. And notice disarmed, the equivalent, the corresponding annotation, it also highlighted here. So I know that apekadumenos is the Greek word here for the English disarmed. So that means I can go in here and I can highlight the corresponding word. Rulers, I already know it's archos, and authorities is exousia, and triumphing is thrombenos. Open shame. I see. Even I need some help here. So what is open shame? Paresia. Oh, paresia. Right here. So I can do that. So you're seeing how I'm creating the correlation between the two. Now let's get into the commentaries. It's really interesting. There is a discussion that is taking place basically based off of this word, the disarmed. What is the subject? Who's doing the disarming? Is it God or is it Jesus? And so here, Powell is basically saying that there's a minority voice that thinks that Christ is the one who's doing the disarming and the leading, right? And what he does here, this is important. Why it's very important to follow footnotes. He's making his argument based off of Lightfoot's argument. So if I click the footnote, when I click the footnote opens up And if I have the book in my Logos library, which I do, I can actually click that link and it takes me directly to that commentary where Lightfoot is making this argument. So this is super important. One of the questions that I always get is, how do I know when my research is done? Like, well, how much is too much research? Well, one of the ways that you know when your research is done is when you start to see the same conversations taking place in the footnotes and the same reference to the same scholars. So notice Lightfoot is mentioned here. So I'm going to go back to the source. I'm going to read what Lightfoot actually has to say. And I really have to make a determination. Do I think that that is a good, viable interpretive option, that God or that Christ is the one who is disarming himself versus God, which is what the grammar probably would say, is that God is the one who is disarming himself. I think this is all really good though. So I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to now keep it in the section with disarmed. And I like to format my stuff. So excuse me while I just get a little bit picky over here. Where my stuff is. There we go. And I'm going to like format it, right? So, but notice number 3, I have my footnote. I know exactly where this discussion is coming from this commentary. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go to Marcus. Actually, I don't know who wrote this commentary, but it's from the Anchor series. And the same thing here. This is actually telling me that this word means to fully disrobe. So the connotation isn't actually like military clothing. It's actually like clothing. So again, this is really intriguing for me as well. So I'm going to copy. I'm going to go over here. And you're actually seeing exactly how I do my research. Now, I found another footnote. Let's follow this footnote. Okay, notice here. Again, we have Lightfoot. He's being mentioned again. Okay, so what does this mean? Here, I found that this could mean equally as the transition he has stripped himself of rulers and powers. This view is represented and justified in detail by Lightfoot. There we go again, Lightfoot. Christ took upon himself our human nature. So Lightfoot is following this argument based off of this Hebrews 4:15 passage. So again, intriguing, but is that good enough? So I'm going to go ahead and just because I'm just, intrigued by it, I'm going to go ahead over here and I might start doing something like, I'm noticing continuous Lightfoot stuff. So Lightfoot reference. I'm going to put, so I can just keep track of what is happening with. So notice I'm starting to organize my outline based off of my research findings. So next I'm going to go to pillar. Same thing. Whoa, hold on. Pillar. I don't think there's anything interesting here. Let's go to done. Done. So done makes an argument. It's the most naturally understood. To take off, undress is confirmed occasionally. Okay. So what done does is he's saying, hey, the clothing makes sense because of Second Temple literature, the Testament of Abraham or Josephus. Now, again, with Logos, I have Josephus. So I can literally go in here and hover over antiquities, see the section. If I want to actually open up antiquities, I just click it and I'll open up to the page where this reference is being done. But notice here, or should we assume unconsciously that the subject has shifted to Christ, giving more weight to the middle form? And notice who he quotes, Lightfoot. We're seeing again Lightfoot. So I'm going to again go here because I'm seeing a development of argument. So I'm going to go here, add him underneath Lightfoot. And then here, this is an interesting thing. The spiritual powers are spoken of here. So it seems like over here, these rulers and authorities, based off of what Dunn is saying, and Dunn goes to Philo and to others, Dunn seems to believe that the rulers and authorities are actually spiritual beings, which I agree with Dunn. So again, I'm going to go over here, but you're seeing how I'm actually like literally building out my outline and I see where the arguments I'm doing. Now, I really love the conclusion that Dunn gets to. Perhaps we should not press the detail and simply allow the powerful imagery of the old and wasted garments being discarded to work its effect. Basically, he's saying is don't minor on the minors. Don't major on the minors. For the Colossians, at any rate, the point would be clear. The spiritual powers, including the elemental forces in 2:8, that's stoicheia, should be counted as of no greater value and significance than a bunch of old rags. This is brilliant. This right here is probably what I would teach. at the end. I would say at the end of this whole disarmed conversation, everything that's going on, I would land the plane and agree with done. Right? There you go. So notice what we've done. We've actually literally built out that outline, and we've done this all from commentaries, and we've followed the footnotes to allow the footnotes to help us to get to where we are. Now I want to go back to the Bible text and I want to show and say, okay, what does this mean that he, whether it's God or Christ, I haven't made the decision yet. It seems like Lightfoot is making a valid case for Christ. What does that word mean, disarmed, and how is it used elsewhere? If I right click that English word disarmed in Logos, I can do a Bible word study. So when I go in here, the lemma is already there. I can click Bible word study, and Logos goes in and it does my entire Bible word study for me. It gets me into my Greek lexicons. Again, it's super important because I've prioritized all of these already. So I can open up NID and New International Dictionary of the New Testament. See, BDAC says to take off or strip or disarm. Disarm. This is intriguing. This word is only used twice. Where is it used? In Colossians 2:15. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to shame. And Colossians 3:9. It's yeah, that's intriguing. Okay, that's helpful. I've opened up some dictionaries. I've done some Greek work here, but I want to keep working. So he disarmed the rulers to open shame. So maybe I want to do a Bible word study on open shame. Right click on open. Do a Bible word study. There you go. Dictionaries, articles. Now, we don't have the time to actually read through everything and show you, but when I go back to the disarmed and we go to Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, where is it? Here it is, disarmed. And we go to NID and TT, we'll actually find that this idea of disarm comes from a cultural context where the conquering king would ride into town and he would bring the captives with him, and the captives would initially be in their royal garments, but as a public display he would then take their royal garments and unclothe them. He would disrobe them as a sign of their defeat and then put clothes of captivity on them. And so it seems really clear that the picture that is being presented here, and actually based off of a bunch of the language, I actually think it is God. God is the one who's doing the disarming, and he does the disarming through Christ. And where does this take place? It takes place on the cross. What an incredible upside down paradoxical reality that Christ is the one who on the cross, the sign of ultimate shame in the Greco-Roman world, that was the sign and symbol that was used to ultimately put to shame the powers and principalities and the rulers and the authorities and all of evil. And only God could be the one who would do such a thing. And who did God use? His faithful and obedient Son, Jesus. And so we just did a whole bunch of work, cultural, language, linguistic. I mean, we did all that stuff over here, and that was super helpful. One more thing I do want to show you is authorities. Like, what does that word mean, authorities, and how do we know that we're talking about spiritual beings? I'm just going to give you the train of thought that happens here. I'm going to do a this time I want to do a fact book study on this. This is actually super helpful on words. Sometimes if you don't want to do Bible words, so you can just go in and do a fact book study. And when you do the fact book study, you will notice that the Lexham Research Lexicon shows us that sometimes that exousia means strength, authority. It does mean military leaders, but sometimes it means divine beings. And when I scroll down and I see its usage, I can see examples of how it's used, where it's used, and how the context will typically determine the meaning of this word. And so we always have to keep in mind. I really love this. We can also see usage of this word in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, to give us a better understanding of what is actually taking place. Now, if I want to do a biblical word study, on authorities. I'm going to right click that English word for authorities. I'm going to go back in here, click Bible word study. When I click Bible word study, go in here and yeah, there you go. You've got all of that information. So I am going to move out of this document and just go back into Logos fully. All right, so we're back into Logos. You can see everything that's taking place. I just want to run through everything that I did for you really quick, just in case you couldn't see it on the screen. I started in the ESV. I right-clicked these words so I can do a biblical word study. I also went over in here, and sometimes, like with authorities, instead of doing a Bible word study, I right-clicked the word and I went over onto the right-hand side and I did a fact book study. And by doing a fact book study, it actually took me right to a very important lexical entry, a Greek article that talks about this word and how it's used. And it actually tells me that one of the ways that it's used is to reference divine beings as well. You may be a Greek pro right now, and you're like, this is great, Joel, but I want to study my own Greek word in my own time. Great. Here's how you do that. Type in G for Greek, colon, and then type in your Greek transliterated word. I'm going to do oikos, which means house. There you go. Greek, oikos, just did an entire biblical word study. One of the things that's really important about the way that the biblical word study is if there is a reference to the Septuagint translation ring will show up as well. So you can see that the equivalent to oikos in Greek is in Hebrew beith, which is house or dwelling place. It can also mean temple, family, dynasty. It's actually very equivalent to the Greek word for oikos. And again, if you want to do that in Hebrew, just do Hebrew colon beith, B-A-Y-I-T, which is the Hebrew word for home or dwelling. Excuse me, my allergies. And click that, click go. And there you go. Logos jumped in and did a biblical Hebrew word study on the word beith and then gave us so much more information. So you can see it's used almost over 2,000 times. Majority of the time as house or houses, and you can see how it's being utilized. So we just did a whole bunch of theological work right now, and we even moved it over into a Word document so you can see how we began to outline this. But here's the big question: how do we then do a bibliography? Like at the very end of it, how do we cite all of our sources, not just in footnotes, but in a bibliography? No problem. Hit the Documents tool. And in the Documents tool, you're going to click New, Bibliography. Then when you get into your bibliography, I'm going to add all open resources. There you go. Sort it so it's alphabetical. There you go. You can name it. Go to those three dots. You can even export this as a Word document, a PDF document, put into an existing Word document that you already have. All of that works instantly. So we just did a massive amount of theological work. And we saw how, like, if we go back into the word study, especially theological, let's see, Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. Oh gosh, where did it go? Here we go. Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament is so helpful because the etymology of this word in this dictionary gives us its usage in the ancient Near East, Ugarit, and even Greece. So it begins to do some translating work for us and helping us to see how these rooms are, how these words relate to each other across languages, even. And this becomes very, very helpful for us, especially if you're not as strong in original languages. Logos does a bunch of that busy work for you. So, what happens if you have a print book that you love that is not inside of Logos, and you want to quote it, and you want to cite it, and you want to use it. Like, how do you do this? What do you do? Well, I'm going to show you an incredible tool that I use called Zotero. And this is I'm a combo. I'm a digital person and a print person. So when I use Zotero, let me share my screen. Me. Oh, here we go. Go knowing Jesus through the Old Testament by Christopher Wright. I'm going to open it in Google Books. I'm going to open up Zotero so you guys can see what Zotero is. You will see inside of Zotero, I have everything filtered into folders based off of category. So all of my PhD work, like every book, commentary, resource, everything is used right inside of there. But how simple is this? This is crazy, crazy simple. All I do is hit this little button, add it to the place that I want, Old Testament, say done. And there you go. There he is. Now, how does this work inside of your document? Remember, this was our working document over here. Let's say, Wright said something awesome. Now, I want to footnote it. I'm going to go here to Zotero, add a citation, just type in Wright, find the right book, click go. There you go. It's footnoted right there. The only thing that you're going to have to add manually is the page number. So if this was like page 45, you'll just have to make sure that you manually add the page number because I can't figure that out. So that is one of my absolute favorite tools that I use as a combination between Logos Bible software and my Zotero kind of digital and print combination together. Let's see, what else do we have? The mobile app I primarily use for how do I say it? For I use the mobile app primarily for quick reading or in-depth reading where I can take notes and highlights what I showed you earlier in that one book. And then when I'm doing in-depth biblical research and study, I shift back over to Logos Bible Software to the desktop, which is what we have been working on because that is the place where I just think in-depth power can be done. And so I'm going to show you the 5 tools that every theology lab needs to have before that, because I just want you guys to have the best of everything. I'm going to show you just the last few things. So, sure, Logos. Okay. Some of the things that I really love about Logos is this tool called Bible Books Explorer. And so when I am studying and researching and looking at something brand new, and I want to see the connections between the book that I'm studying and other books of the Bible, I use this to help me visually to start with, to help me kind of see visually. And so we've been doing a lot of work in Colossians already. So I'm going to filter by New Testament. And I see over here, I'm going to shift to all. So I can do quotations, allusions, or echoes. And I'm going to find Colossians over here. And there you go. There's Colossians, and you see it's going to Genesis, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, 2 Chronicles, Proverbs, Isaiah. If I click this, it'll actually open up a search panel that allows me to see the actual connections in context and where it is. So that is also very, very helpful, and it's a powerful tool. Like what it's actually doing and why it's taking a second here is just because it's a powerhouse. Like what this thing is trying to do is pretty amazing. The last thing that I'm going to show you is the search capability and back to tags. You noticed when we did the passage guide, you had commentaries. Let's go back to the passage guide really quick. You had commentaries. Here's the other thing about commentary, so you can filter it by priority. But if you want to see the type of commentary, like you don't want everything exegetical, maybe you want something that's more devotional oriented, right? You can have that too. So you can see application or devotional commentaries, again, to match the need that you're in. If you want something more heavy duty exegetical, you've got that as well. So that's with commentaries, and you can collapse that. You've got journal articles, which we don't have time to dig into too in depth right now. Maybe a part two, we can do that. Important words. Again, we notice this one, the disarm, take off. We see them here. This is super powerful. You also get over here the ability to get into the church fathers. Like what in the world is happening with Origen and Augustine? And so if I go over here and I find like, oh yeah, Augustine commented on Colossians 2:15, and here's where he commented. I can click that link and I can see exactly where it is that he was, talking and what he was talking about. And I can highlight that and I can, do an underline. And now this is annotated and this is reflective of my study, and it's open so I can do the footnotes and the citations and all of that. So that's super powerful. The fact that you can get into the ancient literature as well. Even ancient Near East, like the Nag Hammadi codices, which are just super, super intriguing for all of you history buffs out there. The very last thing I want to show you is this search panel. So when you search Colossians 2:15, that's awesome. You get so much. But what happens if you just want to study like the powers and principalities? What happens if you just want to go in there and you just want to study rulers, or you just want to study princes, or you just want to study this concept of disarming? Like, what happens if you don't want to attach it to a scripture reference, but if you want to actually search a topic or a phrase or see how that phrase is used elsewhere? I'm going to show you in Logos how to do that. Let me share my screen. You're going to hit this little search bar over here. And notice here, you've got the search capability. I'm going to change this. It says all Bible text in. So first I want to change this to basic. I don't want to search the Bible. I want to do a basic text. I want to search everything, but I want to actually do my hashtags. I want to search all of my New Testament books. So I'm going to search my tag NT, and I'm going to put this in parentheses. I'm going to search powers. Oh, I'm in Greek. This is from before. I'm going to search powers and principalities. Oh, close the quotations and then press enter. Now I will go through only my New Testament tagged books, and every time that phrase shows up in quotations, it will go. So I see this commentary. Look at this. David De Silva, an introduction to the New Testament. I would have never gotten into this. I would have never seen this in any passage guide result. But because I studied at the tag level and searched the phrase in that tag, I can find where this is in all my books. And all I have to do is click it. When I click it, it opens up. So there you go. And I see exactly kind of where it is. And so this is just a super, super powerful, powerful searching kind of feature. And so just to give you an idea, if I didn't do the tag, And instead, just thinking. Instead, basically what happened is if I didn't do the tag, and instead if I searched everything for powers and principalities, my search results uh, would be intense. Let's see, it's going. And before it's like 30 results. Let's see what happens here. Yeah. So I mean, you'll see it. It just is. It's insane. I mean, these are thousands of hits basically. So there you go. That's why search and tagging and all of that stuff is super important. Okay, now I'm going to get to the 5 theology tools that I think every theology lab needs. This is the fun stuff. This is the really, I don't know, it's kind of silly, but it's also just what I use every day. And so the first one I already told you is Zotero. That's just a brilliant tool. The second thing I think I already mentioned as well, these bookmark things, man, they're so good. When you have books that are here, and it's really dangerous when you're trying to use a phone or coffee to kind of keep this open. All you have to do is put this here and stick that right on top, and it just keeps it open to where you need it. And I've got about 4 or 5 of these all over the place. The other thing that I have is this thing called Scan Marker Air. If you're a print and digital kind of combo person, this is so amazing because what you can do with this is open it up, and in your print book, I highlighted and took notes. I can go in here and I can highlight my print book and sync this up via Bluetooth to my Word document, same place where I was taking notes earlier. And as I'm syncing it up and as I'm scanning it, it'll automatically upload. So I no longer have to sit there and type for hours, all of my print notes from quotations or whatever. So this thing right here with Zotero is just an absolute just game changer. I love it. The next one is this book stand, which is super helpful because if I've got something that I'm just reading, I want to have open so I can reference it while I'm typing. This, I've got 2 or 3 of these in my study that I just absolutely love. And you can get them in different sizes and different widths. The other one's going to feel really the last ones are every library needs these flags. I have flags hidden in every corner of my house, in every section of my study for when I'm reading a book and I want to just highlight and make a note of something. And sticky notes. This is from Baron Fig. I love these. These are little diagrammed little stickies. You can see them, and I have fountain pens everywhere. So I am both a print and digital person. I typically sketch all of my ideas first in print. And so I've got this ThinkPad over here that I love. And on my ThinkPad, I literally sketch everything. It all starts right here from this ThinkPad. So, yeah, so those are the 5, or actually more than that, like 8 or 10. Bonus one. These zebra highlighter pens are brilliant because on the one side you can take Bible highlights for full sentences, or if you like to annotate and connect drawings and sections and words and whatever, the opposite end has a fine point pen that you can do fine tuning highlighting. And so these zebra bright pens are absolutely brilliant. So y'all, thank you for hanging in with me. We did a bunch of work, a bunch of theological work, and I really pray and hope that this was helpful for you. And I'm really excited. So here's one more thing I want to show you. Some of you are like, man, Joel, I really love this, but I don't think my Logos does some of this stuff. And so my friends over at Logos Bible Software, they did allow me to share a special landing page that they built for you guys. You can go to logos.com/Muddamalle, just my last name. And there's a special offer that is available for you until Saturday night at midnight. So 4/10/21 at midnight. I'm just going to be super honest with you. If you want the languages and the commentaries and you don't want to build up stuff individually over a long period of time, The options that I would recommend is gold or platinum. At gold, you're going to get all the great original language resources and some really, really good commentaries. At platinum, especially if you're in seminary or you're teaching the Bible and doing biblical theological research work, then platinum is definitely an investment. And what I did was just do monthly, and I used my book budget. And so I split it up between print books and my Logos budget. And often I will take, and I can even show you. Um, Here's an example. Remember, I was talking about sojourners and strangers in Logos Bible software. I first got that book. I first got it in print. And then I was like, this is really good. I need to have this in Logos so I can do footnotes and citations and highlights. And so I ended up going into Logos and buying it as well. So it is common sometimes for the books and commentaries and resources that I just really use and reference all the time that I might have started in print to also have it in digital format as well. And it just works. It's just worth it for time and efficiency. So if you want to upgrade your base package, I'm going to share one more time just so you can see this. And this is important because I think many of you already have Logos. If you want to upgrade your Logos, you're going to go down here and you're going to email this guy, Scott Lindsay. He's actually related. He's my aunt's uncle. So he's my uncle in law. But you can email Scott at logos.com. Tell him that Joel is, your favorite Bible teacher of all time. And I'm just kidding. You can just tell them the truth, whatever you want to say about me. But you can also say, hey, I'm really interested in an upgrade, and ask him to give you the Muddamalle hookup. And he can help you for sure. So y'all, thank you so much for spending time with me.